Hey, everybody. I'm so glad to see all of you guys here. I know that some of you it's evening and some of you it's morning. I've seen some of you guys from Australia in here. For you, it's Thursday morning. For those of you in the US, it is evening. I am so happy that you're with us tonight. And if you've got your drink of choice, whether it's a cocktail, whether it's I've got both. I've got coffee and I've got cocktail. Whoops, that's not showing. There we go. Coffee. This is from this morning. I didn't finish it. So I figured if I finished my cocktail, I'll have some coffee. So grab your drink of choice. We've got a really great workshop for you today. Michelle is going to go over everything related to music licensing, everything from how to write for music licensing, how to find opportunities, how to figure out the financial side, which I know can be really confusing, and everything else in between. And she's going to answer your questions at the end. So throughout, if I know many of you guys are talking in the chat, which is awesome. If you got questions that come up throughout, I'll be taking them down, and we try not to like slow down the presentation. So I'll be taking them down, and at the end, we'll be answering all of your questions. So the presentation itself should take about 1 hour. And then after that, we'll be answering questions. So block out 90 minutes if you can. The question and answer part is really, really golden. So try to stay around for that if you can, because we answer very specific questions. So I don't want to take any more time away from our presentation. So I want to introduce Michelle. She has a lot to say about who she is and what her background is. So I won't even get into that. I'll let her do that. But she has been doing this workshop with my community for the past, this is like our 3rd year doing this, and it's been like one of the most popular workshops I've given. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys doing this today. And take it away, Michelle.
All right. So I don't know if you guys can see me or if I'm presenter yet. Hopefully, but I just want to say hi. I've been writing music for film and TV since about 2012. Released my first album in 2008. I kind of was in the corporate biotech world before that. So, it's a bit of a story going from biotech world to learning all this music stuff to then licensing for film and TV. And so I've been kind of cruising ever since then. So I basically, people started asking me questions once I started getting placements, how can I do this? How can I get my music in film and TV? And part of my job in the corporate world was developing training. So I started to develop some in-person kind of seminars and classes for people in the areas that so many people wanted to learn about it. And just kind of took that a step forward to these style webinars and online training since that's what I was used to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I'll share my screen and we'll just get started with this whole shindig. Okay. Let me know, give me the thumbs up and you can see the presentation, or rather I won't be able to see you, so just say, yes, we can see it. Are we good, Bree? All right.
Hold on. Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I can totally see your presentation. It looks awesome.
Okay.
Just before we get started, I want to let people know people are saying they hear the clicks from the chat. And that if you want to turn that off, it's in the bottom right underneath the box. There's a little like volume thingy, and you can just X that, and that will make the little clicks turn off if that's annoying you, because I don't blame you. That is kind of annoying. And if you're having trouble getting into the chat, at the bottom, there are boxes that you can use to sign in with social media. Most of us are already signed in to some social media, so just use that so you don't have to create an account. And you can, have the opportunity to ask questions as we go along. So I think we're good. I can see your presentation. Everybody says they can see in here, so we can jump right.
Awesome. Okay. So like I said, I was in the biotech kind of corporate world, went into corporate training and development in that arena. And then I was pretty much sick of that and just wanted to do music, because I've done and wanted to do music most of my life, but I have just, things turn in different directions. So I jumped on board with that. And now So I had my first album out in 2008, and I attended Taxi Music Rally in 2009, where I was mostly learning about the artist side of things, and then learned about film and TV writing in 2012, and didn't realize that was kind of a way you could actually start to make some money from your music. So since then, and I focus mostly on vocal songs. I have about 300 songs in my catalog, placements in 50 different shows. That doesn't include like the number of episodes, because often there are multiple episodes within of a show across 35 some different networks, and that kind of keeps growing, which is cool. So we get excited every time we see our PRO statement. Here are some of the placements, and I have a couple recent ones in the show. Harry Connick Jr. had a daytime TV show, and they actually played one of my ukulele instrumentals. They played the music live, and they had hula dancers to it that were teaching him how to hula. So that was interesting, and a different way to use the music. So that was neat. And then I found out I have a song in the movie. It's a racing and mob movie, and it's with John Travolta and Matthew Modine. It's being released internationally now. We'll see if it comes over here. And I don't know why the name is just totally like just totally whoo. But if you look up John Travolta and Matthew Modine and racing in the mob, you'll probably find it. It'll come to me like probably soon. But so that's pretty cool. So I hope I can actually watch that in the theater and see if I can figure out where my song is. So these are just some of the placements that I've had over the years, and the number keeps growing there. So because so many people were asking me those questions, like I said, I've done some in-person workshops here and some seminars for some different schools, and then I've developed online training, and it's something that I like to kind of give back and talk about it. And since there are a lot of people, I figured, well, we might as well do that for the community here. All right, so let's talk then about what film and TV can do for your music, and opening up income for your music stream. First of all, the TV shows and films use tons of music, and they use it to provide depth and emotion to a scene. They want you to be more engaged in what's going on, so the music often helps us get more engaged and more involved with the programming. Music fans are also turning to film and TV to discover new songs and artists. I know I've discovered a lot of songs that way by hearing something on a show and then going to try to find out who wrote it, who sang it, what it's all about, that kind of thing. And I've had people buy my music from it being placed in film and TV shows, which is pretty cool. I've actually had somebody email me saying they heard the song and they wanted to buy it. I was just going to email them the MP3, but they're like, no, we want to buy it. I'm like, okay, that's great. There's still people out there that want to pay for music. That's awesome. So you can actually open up a new income stream through your master sync fees, which is the upfront money that's paid. You don't get paid one of these on every single placement, but you can get upfront fees, then also back-end royalties that are paid every time the music airs. Okay. So this is a quote from Robin Frederick's book. She writes a book, Songwriting for Film and TV. About 8 million songs or instrumentals are needed in a 6-month period. I mean, if you watch TV, almost everything you're watching has music in it of some form, almost under every single scene. So there's a big need for music in film and TV. And so then, what are they using it for? What is the music used for? And I'm sure you guys know theme songs is a big thing. Almost every show has a theme song. Montage is a great type of placement where the vocals are used to, it's a vocal placement usually, and if there's no dialogue, it kind of enhances an important scene. Sometimes it's to underscore the instrumental as well and just really enhances what's happening within that scene. Other times it's background music like car radio, nightclub, jukebox that's happening in the background of whatever action is going on. Or underscore, you just have these instrumentals that underlie the pieces of dialogue that kind of create emotional impact depending on what type of show it is, happy, sad, tension, scary, or just, just a fun background song that just supports what's happening with the characters. There's movie trailer music as well, which is great fun, kind of writing and making that. You, of course, have ads. Ads have all sorts of types of music. And then you've got video games and also like micro licensing, meaning like social media, getting your music licensed on some social media videos and that kind of thing. There's also what's called royalty free. And I'm not talking about performance royalty free here, but I'm talking about things that aren't broadcast, like somebody's wedding video or a business selling their product to another business, or they're licensing it for some kind of use like that, or a web ad, something that doesn't actually get broadcast on TV. And you can make upfront fees with that. It doesn't get any back-end royalties because it's not being broadcast, but you can get some continuous money that way. And there's like retail overhead radio in stores. You can get licensing fees paid to you for that as well. I still have yet to walk into one of our stores and hear my music, but I'm listening because I do have my music rotating in several of the places that do play your music. It's mostly international, but one day. So what kind of music works best? So, I mean, really any kind. I mean, when you're listening to these shows, start listening to the music. You're going to hear the happy, the upbeat, the feel good. You're going to hear the sad and the emotional. You'll probably hear, if you're watching reality TV, you're going to hear like what we call dramedy, which is kind of enhancing the comical emotions of a scene, or music that makes you feel tense, which is, what they want in some of the more dramatic and crime shows. So there's a lot of and wide range of emotions that are being used when it comes to these TV programs. Anything indie and alternative, and there's hip hop and rock and EDM and electric pop and all that stuff is being used. So there's really no limit. Because some people think that, well, I only do jazz instrumentals. Well, there's a huge arena for that. Or maybe you're just, singer-songwriter is the only thing that you do. Well, there's always stuff being used that's singer-songwriter. So you will notice like a little bit of a trend sometimes with certain shows. Certain shows might want more of the hip hop and rock, and other shows want more of a comical type instrument. So I don't do hip hop, but I do see a lot of listings, what I call listings for that. But that's okay. I mean, your music can have and find a home. So one thing we do with writing for film and TV is we write to common themes. And what I mean by that is like the overall theme of a show. So for instance, horror. So maybe you have a horror show or horror film, and then the emotions underneath that theme could be fear, foreboding, mystery, that kind of thing. So you pick a theme and then you try to enhance whatever emotion is that could fit underneath that theme. So other common themes, loneliness or sadness, being left or something like that. And you can kind of make a list of the emotions that might come under that scenario. There's also family, coming of age, and home. Those are all big themes. And then you can pick emotions that will fit underneath those types of themes, both happy and sad emotions. And so I usually keep some kind of theme or emotion, book, and try to write towards some of those common themes if I'm not currently trying to target a request by somebody. So that's one thing I do suggest you start doing, is kind of take 2 minutes and, write down some themes. And you can think of, TV shows as well, crime drama or family drama or, race car, whatever. And then, what are the emotions that might be displayed in those kinds of shows? And then you always have a list to kind of go back to and write if you don't have anything to write at the moment. Okay. When you're looking at songs, both mostly vocal is, I think, what I'll be talking about here. Then we'll talk about instrumental. Usually I'm crafting these things to a specific pitch, or what I call a listing. And I really, when I do that, and that could be either through a place like Taxi, or it could be a publisher sending me a request. I really want to read and understand what they want, because I want to match my music as best I can to what they're looking for. There's no point, if they say, indie pop, and then they give all these descriptors, but all I see is indie pop, and I just send them, I've got indie pop, I'm just going to send that right along without looking at the rest and kind of really understanding what they want. That's just wasted time, and perhaps money for everyone. So I always want to look at the style, the mood, any descriptors they're talking about, if they have any information about the show itself and the scenes that they're looking for. I'll take that all into consideration. So for instance, here's like a listing, this is probably from Taxi, positive acoustic based piano and or guitar, singer-songwriter songs with male vocals. Please submit emotionally uplifting, mid to up tempo songs in the general stylistic wheelhouse of artists like Jason Mraz, Joshua Radin, Daniel Powter. So already right there, I know we've got to have positive, acoustic based. Don't try to get away with anything that's too MIDI sounding, because they will pick it out. Singer-songwriter and male vocal. And it's got to be emotionally uplifting, mid to up tempo. And then if I created a playlist on Pandora or something with these 3 artists, I could kind of list them through and see who else comes up, and just aim to target music that would fit on that playlist, because you obviously do not want to rip off the artists in any way. The listing may continue or it may end there. Solid song structure, uplifting melodies, a chorus that sounds like something you'd hear on the radio should make them happy. Now, you don't always have to have radio quality music, like that, super produced and compressed and all this kind of stuff. It just depends on what they're looking for in that particular style and how it's going to be exposed within the show or the scene. But your music still has to be good. It's going to be written well. It's got to work together. It's got to be mixed, should be mastered, and all that stuff working together. The feeling, the emotion is something we call like broadcast quality. The listing continues. Make sure your lyric themes are positive, feel good, and universal. Avoid specific names, places, dates, times, brands, and profanity. So those are all important things that I would just kind of highlight and be like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, and just refer back to it often to make sure I'm sending something that I think is absolutely going to fit. You don't have to write hit songs every time you write a song for film and TV. I have many placements, and these aren't like, hit songs that I would consider making the top 40 on radio. But they work for what people are looking for. When you are writing lyric songs, you do want to stick with what's called a universal lyric, which we'll talk about just a little bit more here in a second. And sometimes I'm wary of, especially a vocal song, with having anything that's too attention grabbing. This is a little bit different when it comes to instrumentals, because they use the instrumentals in specific ways to gain attention to that scene. But I've had a song that I really, really wish would be placed. And it's been skipped over a few times because the drum beat kind of pulls you in and pulls somebody away from the scene to focus on the music. Like, what song is that? But we're hoping that it'll be used somewhere in the right spot. So I've just been a little bit leery of that when I go through and produce music now. I'm like, is there anything that's going to pull the listener's attention away from the scene? Of course, there are times when you want the music to be pulling you in, and that would be like movie trailers, perhaps ads of certain sort, or any kind of montage-y type stuff where there's not a whole lot of dialogue, but maybe there's a lot of emotion going on. So it's not like a be all end all. It's just an experience that I kind of wanted to share with you. A very simple guitar vocal could work if that's what they're looking for. And like I said before, we're just writing to those common themes because they're most likely going to fit into a bucket better. And then when you're writing, instead of telling stories or specifics, you're really writing the emotion. You're writing to bring out the emotion in the song and the person that's listening. And a lot of times I like to use metaphors when it comes to that. So I'm not very direct, meaning I don't say like, oh, I love you. How else can you say I love you in a completely like unique way that would make somebody really feel that feeling? And so it's a lot of brainstorming that I'll do. I'll use an online thesaurus a lot of times. I have an old version of MasterWriter, and I probably should upgrade one of these days, but I'll open that up sometimes and just type in love or new love and just see what kind of words they give me if it's not something I can come up with on my own. And I use rhyming dictionaries because sometimes they spark like other ways and different ways to say things, and then you can go from there. And then as far as arrangement goes, pretty common structures, verse, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, or verse, chorus, bridge, maybe another chorus, maybe just a different kind of ending since you've already sung the chorus probably twice. You don't even always need to go into it a third time, especially film and TV. I will say that a lot of times in my bridge area, I will put some oohs and ahs. Oohs and ahs are great under film and TV dialogue because they're not interfering with the dialogue, and it's just a nice different place for the supervisor to pick the music and place it. So let's just talk briefly about universal lyrics. So universal lyric is a lyric that a large number of people can identify with or relate to, and it's not going to conflict with the specific content of a scene. And these are definitions from Robin Frederick's book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV. You don't want any kind of descriptions, names, details, or have it be action oriented. I will say that if you're using metaphors, though, you can get away with some of that. And I have an example of that here in just a second. And you don't want to tell a story, obviously, because the TV show or the film is telling the story. So an example of a universal lyric, then, this is a song I did with my buddy Paul Otten, and it was in Inside the PGA episode. Which I haven't seen the episode, and I always kind of wonder because the song is called My Masquerade. So who are they talking about under the during that scene? Anyway, here's the verse. I walk around parading as someone I thought you thought I should be. I fill in the gaps with dressed up distractions, disguising the facts with secondhand seams. So here, now I say I walk around, which is an action, but it's more of like a metaphor. I walk around and parading as somebody else, pretending to be dressed up in some mask or costume. And I'm saying that in a way that is very metaphorical and kind of helps you understand that whole mask feeling. And when you get into the chorus, it's very simple. My masquerade plays on, but I'm not fooling anyone. My masquerade plays on and on. And that's as simple as the chorus gets there. And then here's a universal lyric by the Imagine Dragons. This song is in an ad now. Just a young gun with a quick fuse. I was uptight, want to let loose. I was dreaming of bigger things. I want to leave my own life behind. Not a yes, sir, not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold, have a seat in the foyer, take a number. I was lightning before the thunder. And then the whole chorus is just the thunder, thunder, thunder. Very universal, kind of relatable lyrics. You still kind of get what they're talking about without them really saying exactly, what is happening in this lyric. So if you're used to a lot of details and storytelling, it is kind of a different way of writing that takes a little bit of getting used to. Now, the other part of this whole thing is instrumentals. So instrumentals can be, so every time, if you're a songwriter with lyric, every time you write a song and you record it with the vocal, if you take the vocal out, now you have the instrumental part of it. So you kind of have two pieces of music that you can pitch and play around with. So that's one method of an instrumental. The other one is actually specifically I don't know what the word I'm looking for, maybe that is the word, creating an instrumental for a specific show to enhance certain moods. And we often call those cues. So you're still going to support the goal of the scene. It could be a sound effect as well, or a short, like 30, 60 second, minute, up to 2-minute instrumental. Most reality shows, like if you want to know what cues are, just listen to the music in reality shows. You're going to hear all kinds of different things, from strumming guitars to tension-based music to what we call dramedy. There's like pizzicato strings and just funny things to kind of, emphasize a funny point in a show there. And that, majority of placements like that, especially in reality TV, are these instrumental cues. So that is another avenue if you're experimenting in home recording, to get into and to start to kind of listen to that. Because, again, the more placements you have with any of this kind of music, the more money you're going to make, like on the back end. So I just said, well, the reason they use instrumentals is because it doesn't interfere with the scene. So always have that in your back pocket, even if you're a songwriter. Just take out the vocal and there's your instrumental. You could replace the melody with a guitar or piano or something like that. They say to do that. I have not done that unless I think the instrumental, it was really, really bland, and couldn't carry its own. And then oftentimes I will split apart the song into what we call either stems or submixes, where you've got like no percussion, or you've got drums and bass. And then you have one that's guitars only, something like that. So those are, now I've taken my song and my full instrumental, and then I've got maybe 2 or 3 other submixes that can be used and pitched around, and just gives the supervisors more options. One thing I do a lot is study TV shows, especially if you're a vocal or a songwriter. You can go to tunefind.com and you can research shows, and it'll give you the music that's used in each episode. So then you have an avenue to study the music itself. You can oftentimes, watch these shows online, or if you're not a big TV watcher, and record them. And so you can kind of figure out and watch the scene where that music was in too, which is always very informative as well. But this is a good place to do some research there on music that's in place. And if you're not doing songs, then and you want to do instrumentals, then reality TV, movie trailers, some ads are just instrumentals only. That's where you can do all your research there. All right, so that's a little bit about the whole writing side of it. Now we're going to get into more of the business side of it. Unless there's any pressing questions about the music side, there's only so much I can cover in an hour, and there's it's a lot to cover when it comes to that.
No pressing questions. I know that there's always more pressing questions when it comes to the business side.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. So one big thing to note is that rates vary pretty widely. So we're going to talk about the master sync fee, and I call it sync fee for short, but it's really a fee that licenses the master recording. So you get a fee for that. And then you get a fee for synchronizing that master recording to video. Video, and then it's broadcast. So it's like you'll see it, the master sync fee. I just use sync fee for short because it's just too many words that you say. So here's some rates that I've seen in Robin's book and I've seen online. So cable TV shows can range anywhere from 150 to 3,000 or none. Network TV, depending on the placement, 1,000 to 5,000. Promos for shows, 150 to 1,000. Typically, the promos that I've gotten have always been closer to the 150 end and not the 1,000 end. Indie films, 150 to 500. Regular films, 500 to 10K. I think the film that for the Travolta film, it's the song was just background music somewhere, and I think the sync fee was just over 600 on that. So it does vary quite a bit depending on the placement, depending on who you are, depending on the budget of the film, and of course, music always gets lower on the totem pole. Then there's movie trailers, 2,000 to 20,000. You don't get any royalties on those, but I think one thing I don't have on here is if you're actually hired to score a show, I think you make some more consistent money that way. This is kind of through either supervisors or music publishers and music libraries when I'm talking about this here. TV ads can take you up into the 6-figure range easily if you land a big one. So those are all kind of some varying things. And, for cable TV, you might get no sync fee. So this is a range, but I didn't want to put like 0 to whatever, because that's kind of like depressing. But some shows, they pay you really good royalties, but they don't always do like an upfront sync fee. So it's a balance when it comes to that. So let's look at just some actual statements. I'm with BMI. So I had a placement in Rain. It was an opening scene, vocal placement, and we got $1,000 master sync fee split with the publisher and the co-writer, my co-writer. And so just quickly, if you haven't seen one of these before, it tells you the source of this network television. It tells you the station, the name of the show, the name of the song, the name of the episode, the work number. It was a background vocal, and it was 47 seconds, the year and the quarter, and my percent, because I had a co-writer. And this is what I earned during that. Now, BMI, if it was over a minute, you get extra super usage, they call it fee. So I got, money up front, but the royalties in the back end were kind of like, so-so for that one placement. Now, here's another one. This MTV Catfish pays pretty well. This is a background instrumental for only 21 seconds. And my 50% was this. So it was almost as much as the background vocal, which was longer, but because MTV pays good royalties, or better royalties, then you kind of see that difference there. And then just imagine if you got a lot of stuff on MTV, that can start to add up. And these are all, most of these, except for one, are under 30-second placements. And so that can really start to add up if you're churning music out for those shows. Here's another one that's NBC Sportsnet, and all those cues added there up to over 1,000. So the more of these you get, the more royalties you can earn. And again, it does vary by network and placement type and style and all that. So another placement I had was on Dance Moms. There was no upfront master sync fee, but this is for the first airing, like all these iterations. So I'm not sure what the 7-second thing was, but the actual original placement was 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And they had a choreographer's cut, which was longer. And that aired in the first parts of 2014. So all that together was a royalty of about 518. That was just for the first airing. So you also get paid for the repeats. You get paid for the repeats, and then it was actually used again in like some kind of reunion show. So I got this all over again because technically it was a new episode. It was named something different. So that was cool. This song also sold quite a bit of, so I got mechanical royalties on this song because a lot of people bought it when they heard it. I mean, the demographic on this is probably your 13-year-old girl, and they're going to hear the music and they're going to want to buy it, which is what happened. So, and I still get sales from this song, which is pretty cool. Here's a Young and the Restless placement. They pay pretty good back end as well. This is a vocal song, and it was played so low in the back of a coffee shop scene. Like you could hear it, but you could barely hear it. You kind of had to listen. Over a minute. So it's considered what they call SBV, a super background vocal, because it was over a minute. So there's my half of the royalty on that one. The total was 194. And when you break it down, this was the current royalty. This is what they call the super usage there. And then so that added up to the 194. Now, when Young and the Restless repeats, it often goes to other stations. And so they don't pay as much of the royalty there. But, you get a lot of songs on something like Young and the Restless, and you make a pretty good royalty stream from that, getting some of that music there. So I'm trying to show you that just to give you a little bit of reality of that the rates do vary, and it does add up over time, and it starts to build and stack one on top of the other, the more placements you get and the more music that you have out there. You basically can increase your income by making music, getting it obviously to the right in the right hands, starting to get these placements, which you don't always have control over that, but you have control over making your music and pitching your music. And then you get paid with a combination of sync fees and royalty-free dollars as well. And it turns into just this cycle and this kind of snowball effect where if you're doing everything consistently and over time, you should see increases as you go through it. So I like to hopefully have a blend of placements from the bigger vocal ones to the smaller instrumental reality TV placements to some web ads and royalty free. So I kind of pitch my music to a variety of places that I know cover all these different markets because that, I can keep kind of hitting the same target market, but it's not guaranteed you're always going to get placements there. So I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. That goes true for music as well. And you can also, if you want, you can just go straight for the whole ad scene. And because they do have a bigger budget and a better budget. We'll talk more about this one in the pitching section. And you can make some money there. One big commercial could obviously help for a few years. So there's nothing wrong with, focusing in on one arena there. So let's talk about these avenues for pitching your music or for getting your music licensed. And there's my old farmer with his pitchfork. So I'm going to talk. So all of these that I'm talking about first here, if they license your music, then technically they're what's called a publisher. And they'll take various percentages depending on what their role is. Now, there are what I call music libraries or music production libraries. There's several different tiers of these, and it's kind of a little too complicated to get into here. But these places often are a lot bigger. They take a lot of instrumental music, but some of them take vocal music as well. And they will pitch to the high bar, shows, the well-paying TV shows and films, down to kind of the lower paying reality TV shows and micro licensing and that kind of thing. So there's different tiers. Like they don't always do everything. Some are specific in the arenas that they focus. But because they have like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of songs and instrumentals, you could get buried in the muck there unless you're forming relationships with some of these. And some of them, like I said, some are the big gorilla types and some are smaller. So that's one area. The next one I call boutique publishers. They're still music libraries because technically if you sign a song to them, they're housing it in their online music library. So hence they're called a library. But I call them boutique because they're smaller. They often don't take everything. They usually you can form a relationship with them, meet them, and if they get to like you and your music, you'll get requests from them, which is the best thing to have somebody emailing you and be like, hey, I need something in the style of this, or need something for this, and hopefully you can deliver on that. And because of their smaller catalog, you might have a better chance of getting your music licensed. And they have really good connections, and so do the production libraries, as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I like to spread it around. So I've got music all over the place when it comes to these. Then you can try to get your music licensed directly through an ad agency, through their creative or their music supervisor. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to them, reaching out to the agencies and their creatives and supervisors. But I would tell you that even though they might like your music, they're very weary of licensing directly from an indie artist because of the legalities and the music ownership part of it. So they need to be able to trust that your music is pre-cleared, that it's one stop, that there's no hidden publisher on it or some co-writer or musician that played on it that's going to come out of the woodwork and sue you or them if they hear their music on some big ad. So usually you have to have something called E&O, errors and omissions insurance, to cover any liability. And that's like something like $20,000 a year. So I've met and have relationships with some people that work for ad agencies, but the music I've sent them, I've said, this is also with so-and-so publisher. So if you do want to license it and you want to go through a publisher, then these people can do the documentation for you. And that gives them more of security there. I mean, I know what I'm talking about, and I could certainly own songs that are one stop and can do the license directly, but I don't have the E&O insurance either because it's like $20,000 a year. So, I just can't be doing that right now, but it's fine. Go through my publisher and license my music. There's also what's called licensing agencies or sync agents. So these folks are most likely going to sign you, the artist. These other three that I talked about usually are going to sign your song. So the licensing agents or sync agents usually will sign the artist, which means they're going to own your catalog, or maybe they'll own a subset of a certain style of music of your catalog, and maybe you have a different artist name that goes with them. And then they'll pitch your music. They usually try to get higher paying placements, and then they only take a percentage of the master sync fee. They don't usually take a part of your back end royalties. So if you're someone who wants to stay focused on touring and creating music for your CDs, and you want somebody to totally take care of all the licensing aspect, and you don't have to worry about pitching your music anywhere, then a sync agent or licensing agent might be for you. I do think some have non-exclusive deals as well, or single song contracts too. So you can always look into those avenues. The best places to find them is by looking up artists that are getting licenses, like on the commercials, and see who they're signed with, see who are all the people that they're signed with. Usually you can find out who their sync agent is as well, and then do some research about that agency. Because with those, you really do want to find someone who's going to stand up for you and your music and kind of really like what you're doing. Then you can pitch your music through A&R companies like Taxi Music. There's Songtradr, which is getting bigger, Music X-Ray, Hit License. But you have to see what works for you and take some of it with a grain of salt. I've had vast success with Taxi, mostly because when I joined Taxi, again, I didn't know about the film TV side, but I was doing the artist side. I went to their conferences, and there's so much information that they give for you to learn. I mean, it's crazy. You can learn so much. So I learned, it was just like education. And then I met industry people. I met new people who became my friends, my co-writers, and we do, some do production and some we co-write with. And I met a lot of my publishers there at their conference. And then also, once I understood how to submit music properly and how to match my music to their listings, those would get sent on, and I'd get callbacks from the publishers wanting to sign my music. So I really had success with them. I really listened to any critiques that came my way. Taxi has screeners. So the screeners work with the people who list the music, like the supervisors and the publishers, and they make sure the music fits. Because, nobody has time to sit there and listen to 100 pieces of music, and only 2 pieces fit your listing. So that's the point of their screeners. And some people get turned off by that. Some people get turned off by the criticisms that come with the returns. But I took that and I looked at it and I read it and I'm like, okay, so they say A, B, and C about this song. And well, I'm going to go back and change it. So when I've done that and gone back and changed things, or resung something or rewrote something, and then submitted it for another similar pitch, then it got through, and they noticed that I changed things. So that's been really successful for me. The other places, I've tried out, I've had some little successes here or there. So you kind of have to see how things go and balance, what you're willing to spend, how much you want to learn, what the community is like around these places. Because I think that's really important, is the community, who you can meet, who you can network with, what kind of relationships you're going to form going down the line. So it's more than just like a pay to pitch kind of thing when you're looking at these places. I definitely always want more. Then, of course, there's your music supervisors. So they're the ones that we definitely would love to get placements directly through, because then you don't have to split your money with a publisher. You get the publishing side and you get your writer side. The thing is, they have their go-to people a lot of the times already, people they know and trust. These could be publishers, these could be indie artists, artist reps. So you really, have to have the right music for their show. You have to do your research to see what they're working on and what types of music are in that show. And then if you do contact them, you be very specific that, you got an indie rock song for this show you're working on. I think it'd be great in this type of scene. It's one stop, meaning that you own and control the music and you're the one who can sign the license, and then you'd like to discuss further. Now, if you're just kind of cold emailing them, they might not know who you are, and the trust factor may not be there, and they still might prefer to go through a publisher for their music. But at least you're starting to build some relationships there. So it does take some time when it comes to that. And they're, they're so busy, you don't want to be bugging them like every couple of weeks. Did you listen to my song? Did you listen to my song? Did you listen to my song? If I follow up, I'm usually sending a new email, like, hey, I just wrote this. I think it'd be great for your show that you're working on. Hope you're doing well. And if I've seen them do something online recently, go on vacation, or I was telling people earlier that was one supervisor I know getting more in a relationship with. I like the way she did her hair all the time on, I think it was Instagram. And I'm like, all right, I need to know how she does that. So when I emailed, I'm like, hey, how do you style your hair? And it was like, instead of a curling iron, it's a curling wand. And so, I'm kind of able to send some music and also talk about her in a personal way to show that I care, because I do care. Because they know we want our music license. So it's kind of an awkward situation sometimes. If you can find more stuff about them and what they do in their life and have something in common, I think that helps with any of us, really, just so that that people don't always just want something from you. So that's good. And you can meet them at conferences too, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Okay. So I kind of went through all this already. So I'm going to skip over these slides. Yakking, Yep. All right, pay to pitch we talked about. One thing to watch with pay to pitch, there are some music libraries that are charging fees and they're wanting to split the money. So you just got to watch that. So if they charge you like $30 a month to submit, and they're going to take 50+%, I don't necessarily agree with that. If it's something like $5 a month and they take 40%, okay, maybe that's a little bit of a balance, because most of the time most of the time it's 50% that they're going to be taking when it comes to that. But I don't like paying libraries a bunch of money and having them take a split of my money on the back end too. I'm not quite sure that's fair. So just be wary when it comes to that, and just look around the community of that is around these sites. And you don't want to pay like an exorbitant amount for submission fees. You want to make sure that, when you're submitting your music, I like to see listings that are pretty detailed, not something that's like one short sentence. Hey, I'm looking for female empowerment songs. No style, no this, no that. Okay, well, I'll send you, mine, but they're two totally different styles. I have no idea, these are going to fit what you're really looking for. And of course they didn't. So the more details for me, it helps me match my music better. And see if these places have any forums or online networks that you can join. Always discussing stuff with members really, really helps. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So some other ways to pitch your music is by trying to get and go to conferences. I do recommend you go to conferences prepared. It's good to be exposed to all that, but if you've got the opportunity to pitch your music in front of the people who get you licenses and you just don't have your stuff together, it could set off a bad impression. So the Taxi Music Rally I like, and Durango Songwriter Expos are good because you get to pitch your music directly to supervisors and actually start to meet them at these conferences and gather their information. Plus you meet other writers and other artists. So you might have some new collaborations that come from that. You can do the direct to music supervisor. You can find that, go to Internet Movie Database, IMDb. You can find the supervisors for just about any show. You don't get their emails or anything, I think, unless you sign up for a paid account through IMDb. And, the key is to research the music that they're already using on their shows and then sending them a link that's specific to let them know, I have this music that's going to work for this show, for this type of scene. Would love it if you give a listen. And then send them a streaming link to an MP3 that you can also download, but make sure that MP3 is tagged with metadata. We talk about this ad nauseum in my classes because it's really, really important. So you just talked about research. You can also go to Music Library Report. I think once or twice a year they have a 50% off sale. So you could join for like a month or 3 months and then do some research on there to start getting your pitch list. And they have thousands on there, but you could do like search non-exclusive and then maybe 10 come up and pick those 10 to do some research on. See if it's places you might want to submit your music to. They're free lists are okay, but they're not always vetted and they're not always accurate. I paid for a list before just because I was very curious because I saw this person always offering lists. I'm like, well, and it was a music supervisor list. And I already have a music supervisor list from all my conferences I've gone to. So I was curious to see if any of these people were on it. A few were, but as I went through the list to vet it, there were a lot of composers on the list. Like I'd go to the sites and like, this is a music composer, not a supervisor. So it clearly looked like somebody did a Google search and then grabbed all the information they could and put it in this list. And so that's kind of not cool to me. So just be wary of some things that you're getting off the internet. Do your homework. Just don't, willy-nilly email without looking to see who they are and what they do. My advice, and I'm sticking to it. Most importantly, craft your music appropriately for film and TV. Go to conferences, learn, network, get some peer reviews or critiques of your music. Going forward, a lot of us do that through some online forums. Have all your ducks in a row business-wise. We're going to talk about that. Have business cards. If you don't have a web page, it'll be a one-page website, at least saying who you are, a quick bio, maybe a mission statement. Your kind of your 2-minute elevator speech kind of thing. Have that prepared. If you go to conferences, have a CD of 3 or 4 songs that represent who you are and your work that you've done. Never hand someone a demo, and certainly don't say this isn't my best work, but could you take a listen? I mean, if it's somebody you already know for a while and you really want to get some critiques, that might be okay. But somebody new that you're just meeting in the industry, especially someone you'd like to get music license from, they don't always have the time to kind of help new people through that. The ones that do are golden, it's like wonderful when you can find that, but a lot of people are busy. So try to come prepared with some polished work if you do go to conferences. All right, so let's talk about some types of deals. So there's the type of deals can vary, and we're just going to talk about these 2 big ones: exclusive deals and non-exclusive deals. So exclusive, that's exactly what it means. So if you sign a song to somebody, then you can't pitch it anywhere else. They own it for the time period of the contract. And that could be 1 year, 3 years, it could be in perpetuity. And why would you want to do that? Well, people and supervisors don't want to hear the same song from like 10 different sources, So if you have one song that's signed in 10 different music libraries that are all pitching to the same show, that's like a no-no kind of thing. Exclusivity, is a little bit better. They know that that's the only place that music is going to be heard. It's not going to be all over the place. And oftentimes you can probably get some better placements out of it. Some of them will let you go ahead and release your music as well, on a CD or online or something like that too, but you just would have to check the deal points there. And then there's non-exclusive. So you retain ownership of that song. You can pitch it to other places. You can release it. You can do pretty much anything you want with it. The non-exclusive publisher just has it for the term of the contract, and they'll pitch it to their opportunities, but you still maintain control. So, if you're an artist and you want to maintain control of your CDs and all your music, and you don't want to be signing exclusive deals at this point, then non-exclusive is the way to go. There's also things called buyouts. So that's buyout for master sync fee. So let's say you make 10 pieces of music and you send it to one of these places. They might buy each song for $150 to $300 up front. You still get the back end royalties, writer royalties, but you won't get any more master sync fees down the line. But the fact that a lot of places don't pay you for master sync anyway, getting money up front is always a good thing when you're a musician. So buyout deals aren't always that bad. Then there's royalty free. I mentioned that earlier. Weddings, business to business videos, online web ads, those kinds of things. You get an upfront fee. They're not broadcast, so you don't get royalties. You just get the straight upfront fee. But there are places popping up that are performance royalty free. So they want to pay you one upfront fee and then you get no back end royalties. It's really not a good thing to do that, because really the fees, they're trying to lower them. And in the case of a big ad or a big placement, I mean, the royalties can add up year after year after year. So you don't want to give that up front. So that's something I try to be wary of and stay away from. Then there's direct license or blanket deals. These are a little tricky. Like some publishers and libraries, so the production companies pay the libraries a blanket fee, and they can use any piece of music in the library. But then that fee is not shared with the writer, which sucks. Not all places are like that. There's like a lot of libraries that'll do blanket deals. They do split the money with their writers. So that's okay as long as you're getting some of that money. But there's some networks that they don't pay anything. They do a blanket deal with the publisher and you don't get anything. You might get credits, but what they say, exposure doesn't pay the bills. So again, it's reading the fine print, finding out what these libraries are doing. I mean, I don't shy away from any deal per se, but I do, read it and figure out, okay, what are they really doing? Is this something it's going to benefit me in the future? Is something I want to do now? I don't want to devalue our work in any way. So there's certain things I might stay away from because of that. Okay, getting to the summary part. And then questions, all that good fun stuff. So when you're building an income when it comes to music licensing, obviously the royalty is going to be one big chunk where you're going to continuously earn money every time the show airs. And again, it depends on the deal, it depends on the length of the placement, depends on the network, depends on where it's being rerun. But they can definitely add up. And then there's the master sync fees, which are your upfront licensing fees. You don't get those on every piece of music, but it is nice, to be able to get that and get paid upfront, as well as the royalties in the back end. There's royalties free. We talked about that. I get quite a bit of money from these non-broadcast royalty free placements. I actually got some unexpected money, which is awesome when you find out you're getting money you didn't expect from a new place that I put a bunch of songs into. And, while you're doing this, also the buyouts, finding a place that does like a buyout master sync, but you still get the royalties is not a bad thing either if you can turn out the amount of music they need. So, all this, the dollars vary by show, network, use type, whether it's a vocal and instrumental, and the length. But it all just starts to kind of snowball and add up. You can also make money through the digital downloads or streams by people who watch the show and listen to your music. And some of these shows, like when you get vocal placements, they're really cool about promoting. So a lot of times they'll do like a Spotify playlist of songs that they've used in that quarter's episodes. And that's pretty cool because usually everyone who's watching the show is going to go stream that playlist. So some of that money will show up downstream, down the line, eventually on your statements. I try to make a lot of music and I try to get licensed to as many shows as I can to make it pay off. Like I said, I don't have 100% control if something gets placed, but I do on creating the music and getting the music to people that will sign it and can get me those placements. So we have a saying, and kind of the taxi circle here is write, submit, forget, repeat. So what that means is you're writing music, you're pitching it out, hopefully getting it signed, and you're not like constantly worrying about it. And then you just continue to write and pitch, and hopefully getting things signed along the way, because you don't want that machine to stop as you go. And it does all add up over time. So how long does it take? Well, we have something called the 5-year plan. So like any business, you can't go from 0 to a bazillion in, 2 days or even a year sometimes. You might get some good placements early on, then maybe it falls back the next year, then the next quarter's better, and then the next quarter is not better. But if you continually build up your catalog and you start pitching right away, I don't wait till I have a subset of songs. I kind of write them and pitch them, write them and pitch them, write them and pitch them. Sometimes I'll do a batch, like I'm getting into some instrumentals now. So, but even, you know, with me, I can't spit those things out very fast. So I might get 2 going, and then I'll send them to whoever requested them, and then I'll get another 2 and send them. So I am not as fast in that arena. Some people can spit out 10 of whatever it is in a matter of hours, which would be great if you can do that, but I can't do that. So not yet anyway. And like I said, I focus a lot on vocal songs. It takes a lot more with the writing, and then writing it with somebody or getting it produced and that kind of thing takes some time. Learning to craft songs and music appropriately for film and TV is important. And then properly networking and have your business organized. Keep pitching, getting placements. It could take 9 months to see money from one placement. So that's why you kind of have to keep doing the little circle dance of write, repeat, write, submit, forget, repeat, you know, over and over and over again. Because it could be 9 months. You get that placement in January, you're like, yes, but you don't see the money until September. So it does take a while. And you need a continual stream of all of this to start seeing a regular income. I try to aim for between 50 and 80 songs / cues / instrumentals per year if I can. I'm usually typically down more towards the 50 part of it. If you're able to do some cues, you can spit out a few more pieces there. But, you know, if you're a songwriter, you know, you may only do 10 to, if you're focused mostly on the artistry, you may only do 10 to 20 songs a year or something like that. And that's okay. You can still pitch them or get a sync agent that's going to pitch them for you. And you don't have to put out as much volume. And that agent, you know, could work on getting you some higher paid placements. So where am I? So as far as my sync and royalty money, between the time I started and now, the increase is about like 2,000 fold if you calculate that. I try to do a percentage. I'm like, oh, really? Don't go above 100%. So I'm just going to do fold increase. And the last 4 years, you know, I'm getting close to 20,000 from royalty-free placements, and that's increased really over the last couple of years since I got the ball rolling with those kinds of things. I have one song in particular, it just gets licensed all the time and royalty-free stuff. It's a business-to-business type deal. So although I have many songs that make money from some of the royalty-free, this one, for whatever reason, kind of makes a lot of it, which is kind of cool. And you can be anywhere you want to be, you know, from $5 to 6 figures. You could just be like, I want to get a few placements and just supplement your income. You can do this part-time. You can gear up to try to do it full-time, which does take to work to be able to do that. But it, you know, it's all about building a catalog, crafting songs appropriately, network, pitching, and of course, commitment as you move forward through this journey. So how do you get there? Well, there are no shortcuts except for what I teach you. Because you can't, you know, always go from A to Z just like that. So when I teach, I try to teach everything I've learned, and took me 5 years to learn, and get that to you in a manner that is going to allow you to learn it and apply it, which is the only way really you learn stuff. I mean, you can be in learning mode, but you got to apply stuff eventually as well. I just read a quote somewhere, and I can't remember where I read it, but it said something like, what good is another teaching if you're not applying what you're learning? So I always built in exercises and things to help people apply what they're learning as we go, because I don't feel like you should wait till you're 100%, you know, ready and have like the best subset of songs before you go out there and start pitching. I certainly did, and I learned as I went along. I was just kind of fumbled along and did it. So, and I think that's a you know, good way to do things. But you also want to organize your business and make some goals as you go along. And this is a good quote from a book called From 212, The Extra Degree, Sam Parker and Mac Anderson. To get what we've never had, we must do what we've never done. I like to continually read that book just for inspiration and see, you know, the motivational things that a lot of the successful people have been through. And I'm reading a book now called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's got a lot of profound things in it, and goes through a lot of historical figures and kind of what they thought, how they went through and dealt with things. So that's an interesting book to read, especially if you feel like you're in a place where you might be a little stuck or something like that. But it's a good philosophy book. I've read a lot of stuff along those lines, and they all always help every time. So if you want to learn more and you want to kind of really get your hands dirty, like into music licensing, I do have a boot camp course that starts every fall, and we start the end of September, take a break over the holidays, then we start up again in January with a kind of a 90-day challenge. So we've got 9 weeks of intensive kind of A to Z learning, and that's followed in January, but what I call Turning Pro, 90 days to a 90-day challenge to focus your music sync business. And then following that is a summer Q&A series. So we end in like April and then take a couple months off. And then I usually have like a Q&A session end of June, end of July, and end of August before the next series starts up again. We also have a private Facebook group so that everybody that's taken the course in the past and everybody that takes it now helps each other out along the way. So even if class is over, we still have people posting in there. We just posting about something the other day. I think I put some more definitions of something, and people are always asking questions or posting interesting articles and asking for help and encouragement and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. So you get, it's a live online course. There's, I said 9 weeks, but there's a lot more material than just the 9 weeks of material because I have guests on too, which we'll talk about that, followed by the 90 days to focus your music business. I always have experts interviews and industry people come on as well. And this time I've added a few listening sessions from publishers and music supervisors because I think that's really a value add. I mean, I do a lot of critiques, and when I do consults, I do that too. But I think it helps you guys to get more connected with the publishers and soups by adding a few of these to the courses, and it's included with the course. I've seen places that are offering these listening sessions for like over $100 to pitch one song to a supervisor, and I mean, it gets expensive, to do that. So I also provide you a lot of vast resources to help you organize your music, and lots of homework. I believe in the apply sections. We've always got homework to do during it's not anything that's going to like kill you. And I don't grade people, but it's just encouraging and kind of helps really solidify the material. So the resources that I have, I give you templates to keep track of your catalog. I have templates for various contracts that you'll need in this business. You get access to the private course-only Facebook group. There's skills lists to keep track of what you should be learning. Discounts on catalog, organizing software. I'm having a friend that makes this software. He's going to come on and talk about his software and how he uses it to organize his song catalog, and he'll give the class a discount. We talk about crafting your music. We get into really in depth of everything we talked about here, but in like super, super deep to what's the word I'm looking for? Deep into it. Let's put it that. How to network, the types of deal, where the money really comes from, understanding the control of rights of your songs, any contracts you need, how to and where to pitch your music. Because on a public forum like this, it's a faux pas for me to mention any of my publishers, and there's some that don't want to be mentioned like at all, because if they're contacted by people that don't really know what they're doing, and I've even been contacted by people that like hey, listen to my music, and then they send me a link to Nowhere Land, and that's just not a cool way to do business. So that can come back on me. So that's why I don't give out kind of any pitching actual places to pitch, but I give you avenues right now, avenues on how to get those places. But in class, I've got a little bit more of a comprehensive list where I know I won't get in trouble. We also go into depth about properly tagging your files with metadata and preparing them for pitching, which is huge. So the guests this year, I'm going to have Michael Laskow is going to be on from Taxi. My friend Carla is an instrumentalist, and she's awesome and knows freaking everything. So she's going to come on and talk about instrumental cues in case you either A, already do it, or B, want to be interested in doing something like that. Because because I didn't think I'd be able to do it. And I've been doing it a little bit now. And I really have learned a lot over the years. And then I'm going to have Fett Nashville. He's a great producer in Nashville. And we're going to talk about broadcast quality productions and answer your questions about that and creating home studios and all kinds of things. And I really have learned a lot from him over the years. I never thought I would be, have a home studio recording my own music. Now, I don't do every single production that you hear of mine, but I do the easier ones and the acoustic based ones, and now some instrumentals. But I've learned a lot from him over the years. Then my friend Brooke from Music Matchmaker, she's a publisher, and we're going to do a Q&A and a listening session with her. I'm going to have Alex Stern from DDB Chicago, which is an ad agency. So he's going to listen to our music as well. My friend Keith is going to come on and talk about his software, Composer Catalog, which I've been keeping spreadsheets forever, and I'm importing everything into this software because it's going to be, I think, easier to kind of go through and sort everything rather than me color coding and scrolling down my spreadsheet like I do. I'm going to, excuse me, I have somebody come on from disco.ac. That's an online way to kind of also keep your music organized, but it allows you to pitch and allows you to kind of have a team and co-write with people. And a lot of music supervisors are using that. So they're going to come on and talk with us about that. And I have a music supervisor from Vapor up in Toronto that's going to listen to music. And I'm hoping to get at least one more person to be on and do a listening session with us as well. And I think I'm going to get somebody from Songtradr to come on and talk about their business model too. So this is really super comprehensive. Following all that, then the Turning Pro class, basically after the music licensing stuff, then we're going to take our 90 days to organize this music sync business. But I like to explore, make sure people understand why they're really doing this. I think connecting with that helps us in our business. You'll create a mission statement for your business. Like mine is creating emotionally compelling music for film and TV, or I create emotionally compelling music. And I have another one from my education resources as well. We'll apply what we learned in class. We're going to organize our song catalog. You're going to start creating your pitch lists and actually pitch your music. You'll create your 5-year music licensing plan. I've got kind of templates for all of this. Create your 1-year goals and 90-day goals, prepare for conferences, arrange co-writes, find producers. And I usually have a couple song challenges I throw in there as well for you guys to kind of keep you on your toes that way. So also we'll explore understand the mentality that can keep us stuck and make sure you have all the tools to be professional and learn how to eliminate unnecessary tasks so you can focus on your music business, because there's a lot of unnecessary things that we're doing that we do just automatically. And so being able to kind of clean that out will help us focus. So you get lifetime access to those materials, and again, access to the summer Q&A. It's a lot of stuff. And the good thing is that for you guys, for all this with Bree, I'm able to offer a super discount. So it's $997, but for you guys, we're doing a $550 off. So it's only $447. And if you're not prepared to go for a conference or you're not getting the education you want from it, by the time you would go and buy your plane ticket, the hotel, food, whatever else, I mean, that's a lot of money. I shell out, I mean, it's at least $1,000 every time I go somewhere. And I'm not saying not to go to a conference, but if you go to a conference prepared, you don't have to worry as much about the education part, and you kind of get right to the nitty gritty of where you want as far as pitching, and kind of focus in on other stuff that gaps in your learning that you want. So it's a super awesome price for all that time and what you're getting out of it. And I'm not charging any extra for the listening sessions and stuff that are going on during class. So I don't think you'll find anything as detailed and as cost effective as this. And for those of you that do sign on during the webinar, we've got some bonuses. So I give 1-hour consult and 3-song review with a 5-point action plan. So you send me 3 songs, I critique them from or instrumentals from the point of film and TV, and we talk, answer your questions, and I write you up a little report about everything and which way you should head it. And people find that super valuable. And plus then I get to meet people more one-on-one, even though I kind of get to know everybody in the class because we're all live online. You kind of see each other anyway, but just really get to talk to people. And then I have an ebook, Sync Success, Understanding Music Licensing, that just is a vast resource, detailed of a bunch of different stuff, not only music licensing, but just talking about some mental blocks and kind of how to be successful. So that's for signing on tonight. You get those 2 bonuses in addition. So just a testimony of my friend Kim. She's my friend because I met her in class, my class. She got a placement on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and just really gives a good review here. And it's weird talking about myself, but she's glad she took the course. She learned about universal lyrics, creating broadcast quality music. She said that I answered her questions about contracts, the business side, very real and honest, gives feedback on music, and everyone is encouraging. This course is positive, motivational, and incredible, and the homework is helpful and motivating, and I miss it. And she challenged me to write and do the work. I think you should take the course. You're going to love it. And then here's another one. Michelle is so dedicated to her students, giving so many tools and resources, as well as tons of opportunities to grow and be challenged. And there's more on my website. And if you are on the fence and think about it later, you can kind of look up everything about me and kind of make up your mind there. But I think we can start answering some questions. I mean, these are the 2 links that technically should pop up, I think, on your end in the chat area.
Yes, all the tech worked correctly today. So below that, you guys, you should have 2 buttons now. If you've been on here if you've been on here at least an hour, the buttons should exist. One says full pay, one says payment plan. If you don't see the buttons, I'll type the links in the chat in a minute, but they're right there on the slide. If you want to type them in, just make sure don't type www. Just put femmusician.com/payplan or femmusician.com/full pay. And I want to mention this morning on the workshop, we had 12 spots taken. We had a couple people that were having technical issues that wanted to buy as well. So they might be on there right now trying to get in. But there's only 20 spots because Michelle only has so much time to critique your music directly. So I want to encourage you to jump in ASAP if you want one of those last 8 spots. Every year that I do this with her, this is my 3rd year doing this with her, they sell out. So if you want to grab that critique, to me, whenever I'm in a program, I can get one-on-one time with the person who created the program and who, has experienced all this stuff that I want to learn, then that is always the one that I choose because it's so much more valuable than just the course by itself. So definitely jump in there. If you have any questions about the whole sign-up process, let us know in the chat. It should be pretty straightforward. Just click enroll. And then there's a couple different price options there, but one that you click should have a crossed out price and the new correct price with your like 55 or 53% off. So if you have any questions about that, let us know in the chat. Wanted to thank Gary. He's been really answering a lot of questions in the chat. I appreciate your help. There's a lot of conversation going on here, and he's been really helpful with a lot of his experience in the chat. I have been taking down your questions. So even if Gary answered them, some of them I still kept as questions because I wanted Michelle to ring in on it for sure. But Gary had some really great answers here.
Gary's stealing my thunder.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Awesome. So let me pull up some questions. Sorry, my cat is crying in the background. I know. He snuck in here without me knowing it.
My dogs are in here too. So
I will ask the first question and then I'll try to let my cat out. So the first question, and it was someone who was having trouble getting in the chat, so they actually emailed me directly. And her question was, how would one try to start up their own music library?
So if you're talking about functioning as your own publisher, I mean, you can certainly do that. You just kind of write as many songs as you want, and then you might have them on your website with descriptors and that kind of thing. I don't know if anybody else hears an echo, but I hear myself echoing. But
you're good.
Okay, and you would basically then direct. Now, if you're talking about making a music library from your own music, that's the way you'd go about it, and just be like, okay, this is my website, this is the music I have, this is what I'm charging for sync fees. And you would kind of try to direct people to that and find a web presence, and be your own publisher. If you're talking about starting a music library with other people's music too, that's a bit more complicated. That's something that, I've stayed away with. I don't pitch other people's music. I have enough issues pitching my own music. There's probably more legalities about that. You'd have to have all your contracts written out. And all your terminology, you'd have to get a music lawyer, I'm sure, to write all that stuff up for you, and then create a website and have people advertise it, and on songwriting sites, and get different people to submit music to you that way. But if you're talking about self-publishing, I mean, any song that you own and have written, have control over, you're kind of already your own publisher and library that you can go around and pitch music to different places. So that's kind of what you're asking. Hopefully that made some sense.
Yes, it did. Okay, so there was a question about catalog size. Mm-hmm. And someone said, like, how big should your catalog be?
As big as you want it to be.
Yeah.
So, as much music as you can make. A lot of us are hindered by, part-time jobs, full-time jobs. There's family, you have to live your life too, right? So hopefully there's exercise involved and different things. So whatever you feel that you can create and make and complete, then you don't have to have a small library. It doesn't have to be limited by size. You can say that. You can start with a library, or you can start with a catalog of 10 songs. Start with a catalog of 1 song. Like I said, I kind of write and then pitch right away. Like, I don't wait till I have a big subset of songs to pitch.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. So the subject of metadata. Someone said metadata, why is it important? And I know you talked a little bit about that, but like, what are the really nitty-gritty reasons why we need to have it?
Well, so let's say you send a music supervisor, or you give them your CD that you burned, like an audio CD, and you burned it from your computer or whatnot. And then you give them that CD, and they put it into their computer. Well, what's going to happen most likely is that all that data will be erased, and it's going to say track 1 from unknown artist. WAV files and certain audio files don't retain the information we put in them. It just disappears into space. There's more technical reasons behind that. So with metadata, there's a couple ways you go about it. So if your music is in the Grace Notes database, then when they put that CD into their computer, it's going to try to search the Grace Notes database and at least find out, the basic information about who you are. And there's articles you can just search submitting music to Grace Notes database that'll tell you how to do that. The other thing is I will burn an MP3 CD a lot of the time, or I'll send a link to MP3s. You want to have those MP3s metadata tagged as well, with, at the very least, your contact information. So I always kind of next to my artist name, put my email when I'm pitching music, because at the very least, they'll see my name and my email. And if they like the song, they can contact me, because it's just way too easy to lose for them to lose data and to not find it. I mean, there's a lot more to metadata tagging than just that, because it's not just about finding your music and having somebody find it. It's also about the genre, the moods, the keywords, the instruments used, different time points that might be interesting to somebody, the artist that it's similar to, and the playlist it could fit in. That's all part of metadata. And being able to know what that is and fill that out and provide that for the supervisor is very, very helpful.
Okay, cool. Trying to answer some questions in the chat. Let's see. Is it wise if you have non-exclusive agreements to place, let's see. Hold on. So let me try to read this question all at one time. Okay, let me ask this question first. If sending to music supervisors, what's the standard or best way to send the music?
I usually send a streaming link with the option to download.
Yes. So do you like to use Box.net or one of those?
You can use Box.net. I'm using Disco at the moment, which once we talk about that in class and they come on and talk about it. In fact, I have to email them. I keep forgetting, so I have to make myself a note. Anything that's the streaming link that they can see. Only thing with Box is I think that you can only stream and listen to the song. Whereas with Disco, if you have lyrics there and you've got notes and information, while they're listening to the song, they can click and see all that information too. So it's really kind of cool.
That is cool.
And more of a user-friendly thing. So I swear, I put stuff in my calendar and I have to keep moving the date because there's so much going on that I keep forgetting to do things. So I'm glad I brought up Disco because I have to email them to set a date for the class. Anyway, so all right, next question.
You can use like Box.net or Dropbox or one of those.
Yeah, I mean, Dropbox is probably not the favorite. So Box.net, I mean, you could do a SoundCloud link as well.
I personally don't like SoundCloud because some people
Yeah.
try to send that to me for the radio station, and I don't want to have to log into SoundCloud.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Password and all those things. So, you know. Okay. Is it wise if you have non-exclusive agreements in place to have non-exclusive deals with multiple libraries and sync?
So that is like the great debate now. Non-exclusive or exclusive, you know, or have it, if you're non-exclusive, having that same piece of music appear in like 15 million places. So here's my philosophy on that. And, you know, I sign both exclusive deals and non-exclusive. So let's say I have a song that I have with a great non-exclusive publisher, and I know this person pitches to certain types of shows. So like your high profile, you know, HBOs, your network shows, things that are going to get you master sync fees and higher paying royalties. So what I do, and I don't always do it, like I've been cutting down on this, but then sometimes what I do is I'll take the instrumental to that song and I will send it to a library who only sends music to reality shows. So what you don't want to run into is having the same song in too many places that are pitching to the same shows. Because now it could be conflict when the piece of music goes to the same show and the music supervisor ends up hearing it like 10 times. And then let's say they like it anyway, and they want to use it. They might get lost in the shuffle who it came from. And then somebody's not getting their money. So, and then a lot of times what they'll do is actually retitle the piece of music. And then that, you know, might take away from the originality of the piece of music if you were an artist and wanted to keep it the original name. So there's a lot of debate with that. The songs that I do that I really, really like and am attached to, if it gets into the really high profile non-exclusive library, I usually don't take those anywhere else. The other problem is if you let's say you put you have it in this you want to license to an ad company this piece of music, and they want it and they're going to pay you 6 figures, and then they see it on like a royalty free site or another library who will give that where they could have just bought that piece of music for $1,000 rather than paying you 6 figures. You know, I mean, that kind of shoots yourself in the foot, for one. So I'm kind of very careful about where I put things, but at the same time, I also want to make sure I'm giving myself enough and my music opportunities to be used. So I try not to duplicate and send it to any place that's going to be pitching to the exact same people. And my exclusive stuff, obviously, it stays exclusive, so I don't have to worry about that. So it is a debate. You'll hear that some places now don't want to, you know, work with people that are retitling their music and putting it into a million different places. They want the exclusivity of it being in one place. And that is more getting more professional to just have your music in an exclusive deals. But I got to make money on this, so those exclusive deals aren't always guaranteed to get me placements and make me money. So, but I know that if I have a bunch of songs on a place that gets me placements on reality shows, I'm going to see those royalty checks coming in sooner. So it's a little bit of a debate going on still in the community about that. So I would just be leery of having that same song go into 15 different places, That probably was like all over the place, but
no, it makes sense. Just trying to answer somebody who's trying to purchase. I put the link in, and so Michelle, when I'm putting the link here, it says Turning Pro. So I just want to let people know, for some reason the link says that, but that's actually part of yeah. When I post it on here, it says Turning Pro, a 90-day challenge. So that's part of the course. Yeah. But if you go to the link, you'll see that the whole course is her boot camp, licensing boot camp, and it includes the 90-day challenge, which is in January, but the licensing boot camp is live this fall. And then you also get the 90-day challenge and you get the summer sessions. So like I said, it's almost a year of awesomeness. So don't be confused by that. The links are on the screen right here, femmusician.com/pay-plan and femmusician.com/full pay. Oh yeah, she went back. She was
sorry. I'm checking the links myself because I checked them earlier, and they should go right to the course if you use those.
Thank you. I was putting the links in the chat for somebody. So if you have any problems, like let me know. This was a great question. So Andy was asking, for a complete beginner, where would you recommend the first place to look for pitches and listings?
For a complete beginner. Well, I mean, Songtradr is free to sign up for, but it'll take some time. But you can kind of start seeing what they have to offer, what the community is. But they're signing up with them is a little bit of a challenge because if you have co-writers, you have to get their permission, and they have to sign up for an account and all that stuff. So that's kind of the annoying part for me. Also, Taxi. With Taxi, I often recommend if people can swing it to go to one of their conferences as a guest of somebody else, so you don't have to join, and you can kind of see what the conference is all about, or attend the free Monday night webinars that Michael gives, and then join the forum. Taxi forum is free to join, and so you can see what the community is all about. Start seeing what the people are saying, how people are interacting with each other, what they have to offer. That was definitely the most educational for me as a newcomer to this business. Because some of the other conferences, I heard they're like, Taxi's a pretty big conference, but there are others that were like huge, and I just didn't know, where to turn, what to do. Whereas Taxi just seems to be more organized. You can pick out your classes you want to go to, your pitching sessions. You can meet people in the lobby, and you can read the listings online and start pitching music to them like right away for like $5 a shot or whatever it is. You can also get critiques from them. You can pay for critiques. So it's like if you want a critique of a song, I think they charge $20 or something like that. I mean, you can't afford to obviously critique every single song, or you can. On the forum, is also a critique section there that's free, peer-to-peer reviews, we call it. So there's a couple of places that you can start practicing to writing to listings and submitting. On Taxi's site, you can actually see the listings without being a member. So you can kind of scroll through and see what they have, and see, one, if you've got anything to fit, and two, maybe start writing something to those particular listings. Then you could always decide later, if they have deadlines, but if you wanted to join and submit, you could always do that at a later time. So.
All right. So I see some of you have joined. I'd love to find out if any of you have joined. Sometimes we have a little delay on our side. It looks like guest 15675. I don't know the name there, but she or he has joined. That's so exciting. Awesome. So let us know. And like I said, it takes a minute for us to show up on our side. So we want to make sure that everybody's getting in okay.
Yeah. So far I've got Catherine Lynn, Catherine Jean, and then a Janie Thorne.
Ooh, come through. Awesome. I know all of
online.
you guys. That's exciting. Okay. I love hearing this because I know your guys' music, and I'm like, yes, that's going to be great for film and TV. Okay. So, what's the best way to add metadata to songs? I usually use iTunes. Is there anything better?
I just use iTunes. I'm used to using it. I know how it works. There's a lot of different software out there. I can't rattle them off the top of my head that you could download where you can do group kind of things.
Yeah.
I can't think of MP3. I think is that one of them? Maybe.
MP3tag.
Yeah.
Freetag.com. You can
Yeah.
do multiple ones at the same time.
Yeah. And by the way, you can do that with iTunes too. You just grab the group and then there's certain things you can edit, which is pretty cool. But I'm just so used to iTunes and how it sorts and everything that's what I just use. Some people hate it, but
Yeah,
I like it.
I don't love it, but Gary loves it. So some people love it. So there was a discussion in the chat about whether you should release music if you have sent it to supervisors and there's a chance that it could air on film and TV. Should you still release it like retail wise?
Yeah, do what you want. I mean, sometimes the supervisors like the fact they're discovering, new artists. So having it like, this is on my just released album and I think it'd be great for your show. It's a level of excitement there. So sometimes for me, I kind of am bass backwards about it. So since I'm mostly focused on sync, I'll often finish songs, get them signed places, and then I'll release them just because that's, I'm focused on the sync part of it rather than the release part of it.
Right. But it doesn't jeopardize your sync capability.
No, I mean the only time it would is if you went and signed had a released album and then maybe went to sign an exclusive deal, but then they said, "Oh, you can't release this music,"
Right.
then that would kind of suck. But there's not a whole lot of those. There's a few of those, but if you don't have anybody representing you, like a sync agent or something, there probably wouldn't be a problem there. Okay. But I wouldn't worry. If you just want to try to go the supervisor route and the non-exclusive route, there's no reason why you can't release your music.
Cool. So does being new on the scene affect your rate, or is a good song worth a good rate?
Oh, the rate just depends on the show and the network and the length of your placement. Your song could be the best damn song in the world, and you still might make $60 on it on a promo placement, or you can make a couple thousand if somebody really likes it and is using it for like an opening scene or a theme song or something. So it's not necessarily the song as much as it is the placement that you're going to get with that song. I mean, still have to be a good song. If you want like an ad songs always have a higher bar level than anything else, and they're also high paying. So for that, you definitely want to be top of the line. But for general film and TV rates, they are what they are, kind of thing. If you have an agent that's negotiating on your behalf, you might be able to get a bit more money. But that's, a lot of extra work. So in my opinion, but at least if you're doing it on your own. But we don't have any control really over what the networks are going to pay or what they want to pay, which sucks. But now, if you were licensing everything and made everybody come through you, you might be able to set some of your own rates, but you'd have to go directly through the supervisors. There's probably some more negotiation there, but again, it comes down to what the network and the production companies are going to pay.
Okay. So Stony Gates Sound says, is being in the UK and Europe a disadvantage? It seems like there are more opportunities in the US.
I always have people ask me that, and it's just not, because this is a global business. I know. So I work with a guy in Australia. We write movie trailers together, and had one pitch to some big horror flick. Aliens, the last Alien movie that came out, didn't get picked, unfortunately. And he's in Australia, and I'm in Maryland. So and then I've had several people from the UK in classes, and one of the guys that took my class a couple years ago has a good relationship with one of my publishers now, and is getting music to him. So the fact that everything's so online now, it doesn't really affect it as much. There are people from Canada that come in. Music supervisors can come into conferences, or people go there. I mean, the conferences would be the only thing that might be just a little bit difficult because of the extra travel, but it's not required that you actually go to a conference. There's a lot of online things you can attend now as far as pitching music to supervisors and that kind of thing. So I don't think it's a disadvantage. Just might take a little bit of extra effort to network, which we're aiming to help with here in class too. So
for sure. So Rachel says, can you give an example of a show or type of show that would be solely exclusive, or might be one that would ask you not to release your song?
The show wouldn't do that. It's the publisher that you sign.
Be like the publisher or the licensing agent, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the ones that would have the contingency on it.
The show doesn't care. As far
not usually. In fact, the show often, if it's a good placement, likes to promote your music. Like I had one in The Fosters. It was a vocal song, and it was playing in the background. The episode was Goodbye Ghost or something like that. And of course, my song was titled I'm Gonna Let You Go Now. So it fit kind of perfectly under it. And they promoted that, with the segment they promoted on their YouTube channel, and they made a playlist on Spotify. So, and if I didn't have that released, they wouldn't be able to point that over to me, to say, hey, buy this song, or this is being streamed by, Michelle Lockie or whatever. So that was very, very helpful. I would say, if you were in like some super secret movie that wasn't out yet, and you had a really good placement in that film, they might ask for that song to wait to be released until the movie gets released, especially if it makes their soundtrack. You know what I'm saying? Because movies oftentimes have all this hype around them, right? They don't like to let a lot of things get out. So I can see that being a situation where if you get a high profile placement, they might not want you to release anything until the film has come out. But I haven't really heard of that for TV shows. I would say ads maybe as well. They want that timing to just be a little bit better for their ad. So those are two situations I can think of. I haven't run into that personally. There was one that was a little bit hush hush, but the song didn't get picked anyway. So that's my answer to that one.
Here's a super good, super technical question from Nick, who I know is into like film music. So, is it fairly standard these days for publishers to assume liability for not securing all the rights of a licensed song?
Usually that's a music supervisor's job. So do you say publisher or production company?
He said publisher.
Okay, yeah. Your publisher, whoever is getting that song licensed, it is their full responsibility. And that's why often you sign. So that's why music supervisors go through publishers a lot, because the rights have already been cleared.
Right.
You're not going to be able to sign a song to a publisher unless they know who are the co-writers, that you've had all your work for hire agreements signed, that you fully own the masters, and you would sign all that stuff over to the publisher, but then assumes that liability because now they own the song and the rights to the song to be able to pitch it for you and get those license deals made. So yeah, the publisher would take that responsibility, not the production company.
Perfect. Okay, I've got one more question, but I wanted to check with you where we are on the spots, because they will close out tonight. So if you want to get one of those 8 spots, and I know last I heard there was 3 taken.
Somewhere there's 3, but it looked like somebody else joined, but I haven't seen the payment come through yet.
Okay. When does the fall course begin?
September 24th. And so what I do is I have 2 sessions during the week. They have the same content, but they're 2 different days and 2 different times, so that if the one day doesn't work, you can come to the next one. And I record both of them. So if you can't make it, you have access to the recording and the audio. So and I let you download the audio. So you could either watch the video or you could download the audio and listen in your car or whatever. And then you have access to it through my online academy site, where all the homework and stuff will be. Right now there's a draft agenda in there, so I don't have I'm just finalizing the final agenda, but because I'm waiting for all these spots of these guest people, and I'm trying to get their dates settled in so I can put that in for you. But that's how it all goes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, like the ability to go through this course live. She only does this course live once a year.
Yeah.
So the ability to go through this live is so worth it, because you're able to ask questions live. You're able to like do homework with the group. It's not the same as like a self-paced course. I think it's so much more valuable.
Yeah.
It really pushes you. It keeps you accountable to go through a course live. So I highly recommend that you try to go through it live if you can.
Yeah, okay. And I have a lot of people that will sign up, and for one reason or another, they might not be able to make the live dates, but then they always catch up the next day, and we always prompt people on the Facebook group. We post kind of the homework, for that week, and have people start to post their answers there. So it's always kind of encouraging everyone to interact, even if you can't be there for the live sessions like every single time. So, I kind of make it so that you'll always be able to have access to that material, even if you can't make a live session or something like that.
Yeah, I personally love that with courses, having that somebody pushing me, because otherwise, you can always procrastinate. You can always find a reason not to do it. And, I'm as bad as any of you, so that's why I put myself in a position where I can't get out of it, and so that's why I think live courses are awesome. Okay, so I have a set of questions here as you guys are doing the final signups tonight. If you have any questions in the chat, if you're having trouble signing up, let us know. So Emma said 50 to 80 songs a year. Oh my gosh. How do you balance that with studio costs?
So I work with and have met a bunch of people that I co-write with, and usually one of them can produce. So I don't pay full production costs anymore. If we have a group of like 3 people and, one does the production, the other do the writing, we either just split everything equally, writers and publishers or whatever, or we pay a discounted production rate to the person producing it. We give them a little bit more money, a little bit of their production cost money, but it's at a much lower rate than a professional studio. And then the other thing is that I learned how to record and produce music myself. And that includes learning the instruments I had to learning how to use Logic. I set up a studio in my bedroom. We just moved, so I've got a basement studio now that I'm still mostly setting up, but I got to get the sound control and the ceiling and stuff. I'm procrastinating. So
that's exciting. No more neighbors getting their lawns mowed while you're trying
to know. Yeah. Now it's just the new speaker that we put outside that seems to just blare through my window, but that's only at night. So I can always make them turn it off if I need to. Yeah, so it was a goal of mine to be able to do that. I didn't have to. I know plenty of people in this business that work with co-writers who can produce, and they often, will write the song together, and then the one person will produce it. And there's either no cost or reduced cost, for splits of the song. So that's how I manage that, especially without having my old income that I used to have. So
yeah, it looks like Andy just joined. That's exciting.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. And then the last question is, what do you consider broadcast quality, and how do you master things?
So the term broadcast quality is a little bit, it's not like radio quality per se, but it's more of how everything is working together and sounding. So it's not only the arrangement, how the vocals are working, the mood that's being evoked, is everything mixed and balanced well. and is at a certain level and mastering that's going to work for whatever the scene is. So in the segment where we talk about production, we definitely go through some samples of like broadcast quality, not broadcast quality. The other thing I would recommend is listening to the songs that are, go to TuneFind and listen to a bunch of music, and you're going to see a really broad range, because all these lo-fi indie stuff that's out there, I mean, you know, they're recording this music, sounds like it's done in your garage, and it's just maybe got a lo-fi filter on it, or it just was recorded that way, and that stuff is getting used. I'm not saying because I'm not saying you're making garbage, but you know, it's just a certain range and a clarity. But you just don't have to do these full huge productions that sound like they need to be hit songs on the radio. I mean, that just will take a lot of time and a lot of money to get going. As far as mastering, I do master, but I downloaded a program from Isotope called Ozone, but I downloaded their cheapo one. So it's just a bunch of, you click through these settings and you kind of decide, oh, I like this. Then you raise the volume to the appropriate levels. And if I'm making, like I've been making some relaxation, kind of yoga-ish type of instrumentals for a publisher, I'll try to make like 2 or 3, and I'll put them into the program and just make sure I'm using the same settings and get them to the level that he wants. So it's not real professional mastering, but it's enough that it's working for this publisher, and he's pretty picky. So if I can do that, other people can do it.
Yeah, that's good. My editor loves Isotope.
Yeah.
So totally recommend that. Cool. Okay. So that is all the questions that we have. If anyone else has any questions in the chat, let me know real quick. I'm going to type Michelle's email in here, and it is courses, right?
Yep. At MichelleLockey.com.
Lockey.com. If you have any questions, there's a few more slots left for the one-on-one critiques. So if you want that and you're having trouble signing up or whatever, please make sure and email her tonight if you want one of those spots. We had 87 people here live tonight and 97 people live this morning.
Yeah.
So those spots are going to get taken today. So if you want one, I would go grab it now. Or if you have a question, just email Michelle. Admittedly, it is almost 10 p.m. her time, but she's very dedicated. So.
And Arturo just signed up, it looks like, too. So.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay. If you have any questions, you can also email me if you want, but Michelle is better because she's the source. So courses at MichelleLockey.com. Thank you guys so much for showing up. We will have a replay of this that will be available tomorrow morning if you want to watch it again. Let's see. Andy says, how do I grab that? What are you talking about?
The bonuses.
The critique. Michelle will contact you about how to set up your critique. And by the way, you don't have to have it immediately. Like, I recommend you go through some of the course, you make some changes.
I usually do like a month or so into the course, we start scheduling them. And then everyone who signs up to get the bonus, the ebook, I'll email that to everyone that got that bonus too.
Perfect.
Yep.
Cool. Getting a lot of great thanks from Nick. Great to see you here, Nick, and everybody else that was here. And thank you so much. I'm just going to come on screen real quick because I didn't get to last time because we were having all kinds of tech difficulties and I didn't like it. But this one has been amazing. I knew the tech gods would be on our side this time. So hold on. I'm going to try to stop presenting. There we go. I think I'm on screen. What? Awesome.
Yep.
You guys have been great. It's been so fun to hang out with you for the last 2 hours. Thanks for hanging in there. We always try to answer all the questions if we can. So we really appreciate you. Again, the replay will come out tomorrow morning. So if you want to watch this again, you can absolutely do that. And if you have any questions, email Michelle at courses@MichelleLockey, LOCKEY.com. Have a good evening, you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Bye.